Hey, I'm a psychiatrist, and today I'm breaking down why healthy relationships can feel boring, what's actually happening in your brain, and how to retrain your nervous system to recognize safety as attractive instead of anxiety. Now, I have done couples and family therapy in my psychiatry training, and you'll be surprised to learn this is one of the most common patterns that shows up in couples and even individual therapy. And the part that a lot of people miss is that most times it's not about the person being dramatic or choosing wrong. It's about how their brain learned what love feels like. And sometimes some of those ingrained learnings is what keeps us stuck in relationships that hurt. Now, if you're new here, I'm Dr. Joseph, also known as Dr. J, and I'm a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry. And my goal here is to make mental health make sense for you. So please let me know if I'm succeeding in the comments. For our first point, let's talk about what we often mistake for chemistry or the spark. So there's this psychological principle called intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful behavior conditioning mechanisms that we know of. And here's how it works in relationships. I want you to think about someone who's dating someone inconsistent. Sometimes they're amazing, super attentive, they're loving, and making you feel like the most important person in the world. Then they pull away. They become distant, they don't text you back, they're emotionally unavailable, and then bam, they come back again, and it feels incredible. That pattern, that unpredictable reward followed by withdrawal, followed by reward again, it creates what researchers call a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement, and your brain gets addicted to it. You see, when rewards are unpredictable, your brain releases more dopamine. The uncertainty itself becomes exciting, so you're constantly wondering, will they text back? Will they show up? Will tonight be good or bad? And all of that uncertainty, it feels like passion. It feels like chemistry. It feels like you're deeply in love. Now, compare that to dating someone who's consistent. They text you back reliably. They show up when they say they will. There's no real mystery, no games. And your brain goes, meh, because there is no dopamine spike from the uncertainty. There's just steady, predictable care. Which brings me to trauma bonding. And this is when intense emotional experiences, both positive and negative, create a powerful attachment. Think about it as someone who makes you feel terrible, then makes you feel amazing. That emotional roller coaster creates an intense bonding experience, way more intense than someone who just makes you feel consistently good. Now, research shows that trauma bonds can be stronger than healthy attachments. And this is because your brain is wired to pay attention to threats. And when the same person who threatens you also soothes you, that creates a psychological dependence that feels like deep connection. Okay, our second point. And this is where we talk about why this happens in the first place. So, attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, shows us that the relationships that we have with our primary caregivers in childhood shape how we relate to people for the rest of our lives. And there are three main attachment styles. There's secure, there's anxious, and there's avoidant. Now, if you grew up with caregivers who are consistently available, responsive, and emotionally attuned, then you likely developed a secure attachment style, which means you learn that relationships are safe, that people are reliable, that your needs will be met. And as an adult, you're attracted to people who are also secure. But if your caregivers were inconsistent, sometimes they were available, sometimes they were not, and you may have developed an anxious attachment, which means you learn that love is uncertain. You have to work for it. You have to prove you're worthy. And as an adult, you become attracted to people who recreate that uncertainty because that's what love felt like growing up. Or maybe your caregivers were emotionally unavailable or dismissive. Now, in that case, you might have developed avoidant attachment. You learn that depending on others is unsafe, that you have to be self-sufficient. And as an adult, you're attracted to people who are distant. Closeness feels threatening. This is all because your brain is wired to seek what's familiar, even if what's familiar is unhealthy. For example, I want you to think about someone who grew up with an unpredictable parent, sometimes loving, sometimes rageful, and as an adult, they meet someone stable, someone kind, someone predictable, and their brain goes, this doesn't feel right. Not because the person isn't good for them, but because their nervous system doesn't recognize safety as normal. Now, research in neuroscience has shown that our attachment patterns create actual neural pathways. So the more you experience a certain type of relational dynamic, the stronger those pathways become, which means your brain literally gets wired to find certain patterns attractive and others boring. So when you say someone feels boring, what you might actually mean is they feel unfamiliar, and your nervous system may not be recognizing healthy attachment. So it may just recognize as an absence of feeling rather than presence of safety. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, definitely subscribe now so you don't miss out on future videos like this. You will also be helping spread mental health awareness by making this channel visible to many others like you. So, thank you. Our third point is why stability can register as boring. And this is the paradox at the heart of this whole thing. So, when you're in a chaotic relationship, your body is constantly producing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You're also in a state of hypervigilance, so always wondering what's going to happen next, always preparing for conflict or abandonment or disappointments. And that physiological state feels intense, it feels alive, your heart races, your stomach does flips, you're emotionally activated all the time. Now, think about being with someone stable, someone who doesn't trigger your stress response. You see, your cortisol levels are normal, your nervous system is calm, and if you spend most of your life in a state of anxiety, calm can feel like nothing. And this is what research call mistaken anxiety for attraction. Because when your nervous system has learned to associate love with stress, the absence of stress feels like the absence of love. Let me walk you through a concrete example. Think about someone who's been in multiple relationships with people who were emotionally unavailable. You know, every text message was analyzed and every interaction was uncertain. They were constantly trying to figure out, do they like me, or are we okay? What did that mean? What did this mean? And then they meet someone who's straightforward, who says, I like you and I want to spend time with you. I'll call you on Thursday. And guess what? That person's brain goes, wait, where's the challenge? Where's the excitement? But here's the thing, what they're calling excitement is actually anxiety. Now, research in attachment neuroscience shows that secure attachment is associated with lower baseline cortisol and better emotional regulation, which means healthy relationships literally feel different physiologically. They feel calmer. And if you're not used to calm, that calm registers as boring. Okay, for our fourth point, let's talk about the spark. Let's talk about what it is and what it isn't. So a lot of people describe the spark as that feeling of intense chemistry. So think butterflies, obsessive thinking, constant emotional highs and lows. And they think that's how I know it's right. That's how I'll know they're the one. But here's what that is from a clinical perspective. It's something called emotional dysregulation. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that healthy relationships don't have excitement or attraction. They absolutely do, but it's different. In a secure relationship, the excitement comes from genuine compatibility. Things like shared values, intellectual connection, physical attraction without anxiety. The person makes you feel good. Not because they're unpredictable, but because they're genuinely a good match with you. Think about the difference between these two scenarios. Scenario one, you're dating someone and you're constantly checking your phone, wondering if they'll text, analyzing every interaction, and feeling amazing when they reach out, and devastated when they don't. Scenario two, you're dating someone and you feel calm. You trust that they'll reach out to you. You're not anxious about the relationship status, and you enjoy being together, but you also find being apart. That feels peaceful. Now, which one do you think is healthier? Obviously, scenario two. But which one do you think feels like the spark if you grew up in chaos? Scenario one. Now, research on emotional regulation in relationships shows that secure couples have what's called emotional co-regulation, which means they help each other stay regulated. They don't create chaos. Instead, they create safety, which allows for deeper intimacy over time. Our fifth point, this is the solution part, so I'm glad you stuck around. It's how you actually retrain your nervous system to find healthy relationships attractive. So first and foremost, you need to understand that this is possible. Your attachment style isn't fixed forever. And research shows that with the right interventions, people can move from insecure attachment styles to more secure patterns. It takes work, but it's definitely doable. Now, therapy is really helpful here, specifically attachment-based therapies or psychodynamic therapy that explores your early relationship patterns. Now, a good therapist can help you identify when you're attracted to certain dynamics and how to build tolerance for healthier ones. But there's also work that you can do on your own. And the core of this is learning to tolerate the discomfort of safety. Think about it like exposure therapy. So if you're anxious about flying, we don't avoid planes forever. No. We gradually expose you to flying until your brain learns that flying is safe. Same principle applies here. When you meet someone healthy and your brain says this feels boring, you have to consciously challenge that. Ask yourself, is this boring or is this just unfamiliar? Am I actually uninterested or am I just not anxious? These are great questions to start with, and this is hard. You stay. You give your nervous system time to adjust to what safety feels like, and you let yourself build trust over time. Now, for a lot of people, your brain starts building new neural pathways. Safety starts feeling normal and consistency starts feeling attractive. Also, unlike before, drama starts feeling exhausting instead of exciting. And research shows that this works. Studies on earned secure attachment demonstrate that people can develop secure patterns even if they don't have them growing up. It just requires conscious effort and often professional support, but it's absolutely possible. Another very important piece here is learning what genuine compatibility actually feels like. It's not butterflies and obsession. It's really about mutual respect and aligned values, emotional safety, good communication, physical attraction without anxiety, the ability to be yourself. That's what sustainable love looks like, and honestly, that's why I made this video. Now, another important point I want to make sure I add is that, you may have to grieve what you thought love was supposed to feel like. Because if you grew up believing that love is supposed to hurt or be uncertain or require you to prove yourself all the time, then, letting go of that belief is a loss. And sometimes losses need to be mourned. But on the other side of that grief is the possibility of relationships that actually work. Ones that don't drain you. The ones that feel good long term and not just in spurts of intense moments kind of haphazardly glued together. Now, if you found some value in this video, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now so we can spread mental health awareness. And let me know your thoughts about attachment styles in the comments below. I read and respond to every single comment, so I look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, I'm Dr. Joseph, and I will see you on the next video.